Welcome to Burns White, Inside the Law.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Burns White Inside the Law podcast. Today, we're going to go inside the law with my dear friend and one of my mentors, our Chief Financial Officer, David Damico. How are you, Dave?
I'm doing great, Ahsan. Thanks for having me, and I'm excited to share some time with you.
Is this your first podcast?
It is my first.
All right. I bet your family's going to be excited to watch you and listen to you, right?
If they don't get enough of me during the day, they can always resort to this.
Okay, great. All right, so I consider you to be the official Burns White podcast historian. You're a founding member of the firm. So I want to start by getting some insight from you and some information from you and for our viewers. If you wanted to describe like the Burns White story, just tell us how Burns White started and what motivated you guys to start the firm.
Sure. I started working for Mike Burns as a law clerk in January of 1983 at another firm. And interestingly enough, within a couple years, Mike was presented with a great opportunity, and it was something that was unheard of in the mid-1980s, and that is he struck an alternative fee arrangement deal with a large railroad in the United States, whereby they would pay us a monthly fee for handling X amount of cases that were in the inventory, plus any new cases. So we were really, Mike was way ahead of his time in terms of an alternative fee arrangement as far back as the mid-1980s. So fast forward, Dave White approached me and asked me if I was interested in starting a firm along with he and Mike. And eventually, two others joined us. And in January of 1987, 38 years ago, we started Burns White. We had 5 lawyers, we had 5 paralegals, and using the vernacular of the day, 5 secretaries. Now, of course, legal assistants.
Sure.
So there were 15 of us. And if I'm not mistaken, I'm the only one who's left.
Okay.
But I was pretty young at the time and fortunate to have that opportunity. And that's how it all came about.
And for our viewers, Mike Burns, a giant in the industry, he passed away last year.
Yeah, Mike unfortunately passed away last November, but he was my mentor, one of the smartest lawyers, and he possessed a unique skill set in that not only was he a great lawyer, but he was a really, really astute businessman as well. And that knowledge that he had propelled us, particularly in the early years, because the rest of us were fairly young lawyers who didn't know the first thing about running a law firm.
Yeah, that's actually what I kind of wanted to get to. It's like, how many years out were you at that time?
I was a little over 2 years practicing law when we decided to form Burns White. I had worked with Mike as a law clerk for an additional year and a half, so I pretty much knew what I was getting into.
So 2 years, you knew everything. There is no law, right?
Yeah, I was 28 at the time we started the law firm, and my wife was pregnant at the time, so it was a pretty big move, but obviously no regrets. It's turned out to be beyond my wildest dreams.
Looking back on it, all these years later, what would you say you're the most proud of with regard to what you've accomplished with this firm, what the firm's accomplished in the last 1987, was it 37 years?
I think we're in our 38th.
38, I'm sorry.
Not to nitpick, but in any event, I think the thing that I am there are probably 2 things that I'm most proud about. I think we've delivered outstanding legal results for our clients over the years. And obviously, I'm very proud of that. One of the other things that I try not to lose track of is our firm has now well over 300 employees, somewhere in the neighborhood of 350 employees. And I'm very proud of the jobs that we've created. I think we have great benefits for our folks. It's a great place to work, and a lot of people have had very successful careers at Burns White. And I'm proud of the fact that we've created jobs for people.
What would you say makes Burns White different? I mean by that is, if you look at the past 38 years in the legal industry in Pittsburgh and throughout the Northeast, there are firms that have come and gone. What would you say makes Burns White unique, and what has allowed us to be so successful in the last 30 years?
I think Mike Burns set the tone. And when we were talking about forming the law firm, he was very clear that he wanted to work very hard, deliver good results for our clients, but we wanted to have fun, at least enjoyment in doing so. And that comes about, and this may sound somewhat simplistic, but it's all about relationships. And it's relationships with your clients, it's relationships with your coworkers, and it's even goes down to, relationships with the folks from the mailroom. You want them to be comfortable, and I think that's one of the things that sets us apart. And I've told this story a number of times, but it sort of gives some insight into, like I said, how Mike Burns set the tone for the law firm. When we started, we had two major clients. In addition to the major railroad that I referred to, we represented a large insurance company. And the reason for how that client came to be, Mike told the story that there was a local office, and there was, again, using the vernacular of the day, a secretary. And when he called that office, he had a couple of cases. The secretary would answer, and he treated her like she was the most important person in the world, even though she had no responsibility for assigning cases or work. Well, lo and behold, her boss got transferred, and she became the person in charge for all cases for this large insurance company in Western Pennsylvania, from Harrisburg all the way west. And she remembered one thing, and that was how she was treated by Mike Burns. Well, guess who started getting virtually every single case that she had? Mike did. And it was all because of the relationship he established with her when she had no authority and was just someone to talk to who picked up the phone. And that's always stuck with me. And I tell that story to a lot of our young people because, treating people with dignity and respect, particularly in this day and age with all that's going on in the world, folks often lose sight of. But relationships is what makes it work.
That's a good point. And customer service, that's something that is never going to go away. Technology and the law, things of that nature, that personal touch, customer service, it's a big part of what we do here.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And let's switch gears a bit and
Sure.
Let's talk about your practice area.
Okay.
How would you describe your practice area?
So I'll harken back a little bit. When we started the firm, I did virtually all types of litigation. I did medical malpractice work, I did products liability work, general liability work, and of course, a lot of work representing railroads. We were able to expand that one railroad into a practice that over the years we've represented, and I have represented every class one railroad. By class one railroad, those are the big railroads in the United States, as well as a number of short lines or smaller railroads. And in terms of my practice, it sort of grew on the railroad side so much that it became about 90 or 95% of what I do even to this day. So we handle personal injury cases, and perhaps I'll take a little detour here, but the railroads, interesting, don't have workers' compensation. So if a railroad employee gets hurt on the job, one of their remedies is to file a lawsuit against their employer. And there's no cap on damages, so that makes it oftentimes very risky. And it's a large, I don't even want to say boutique, but a large cottage industry in the United States with billions of dollars being exchanged on claims, lawsuits, legal fees, indemnity dollars, and so forth. So, and the reason that law came about, it's the Federal Employers Liability Act, FELA, is really stems to the early 1900s when the law was created. The railroads, of course, were the largest industry in the United States. At one time in Altoona, Pennsylvania, during World War II, they had 16,000 employees there just in Altoona on one railroad. And unfortunately, in the early 1900s, it was a very dangerous place to work. And so Congress created this law, the FELA, to protect railroad workers and give them a chance to recover if they got hurt on the job. It predated workers' compensation and remains in effect until today, even today. So lots of personal injury cases. I've handled derailment cases involving toxic chemical spills. We do railroad crossing accidents, and some of the most unique litigation you'll ever see just happens with somewhat regularity on the railroads, all the time. So it keeps us quite busy.
There's no like with derailments or those type of things that happen with railroads. There's no common back, right? Every case is unique in some way.
Exactly. And crossing cases, and unfortunately, you see people driving around the crossing gates and getting hit by trucks. I saw something on a news feed just the other day of some EMS people pulling a guy out of a truck. Apparently he was intoxicated and passed out on the railroad tracks in his truck, and they managed to pull him out right before the truck got hit. So
lucky.
Things happen all the time, and it's an exciting area to practice in.
Yeah, and there's no real fender benders, right, when it comes to rail accidents. It's like they're pretty serious injuries and
yes. And one thing a lot of people don't realize is a mile-long train, which is not unusual, at 60 miles an hour takes generally at least a mile to stop from the time they start applying the brakes until they get the whole train stopped. So they don't stop on a dime.
No. That's a fact that draws me to the next question. Like, how does your experience, and you don't practice alone, obviously you have a big team around you. Like, how does your experience with the knowledge that you have in the years doing it and the knowledge your team has, how does that make you more effective in litigating these types of cases?
So there's probably several answers to that question. Yes, we have about 27 lawyers in the firm who practice railroad law, either predominantly or touch upon it from time to time, but most of them are pretty actively engaged. We feel like we have the deepest bench of any railroad practice in the United States, and in fact, our railroad practice has been acknowledged by various publications. we have a tier 1 ranking for our railroad group, and I've tried cases, as have others in my firm, as far away as California. I didn't finish a trial in Oregon years ago, all over the eastern United States, and we have others who have practiced all over the country as well. So I think one of the things that sets us apart, and we're known for it, is our bench strength and a number of people that we have that are capable trial lawyers for handling virtually any type of railroad case.
You mentioned earlier these railroad cases have been around since the early 1900s. How are things different now as far as the types of cases that you're seeing and just litigating them? Is there any aspects that have changed over the years that you've been doing it?
I think the biggest thing, and I don't think it's really unique to railroad litigation, is what's popularly termed or the phrase that's used is nuclear verdicts. You have to be cognizant of your jurisdiction, whether you're going to try a case or try and get it settled. Jurisdiction is a huge element and something that we always analyze. And because railroads run through virtually every major city, a lot of our cases, most of them are filed in major cities where you have to be cognizant of your jury pool, and you have to be aware, because as I said earlier, there are no limits on damages in our cases, that possibility always exists. So I think more so in the last few years, and probably post-COVID, nuclear verdicts are something that can be, I don't want to say an impediment to trying a case, but certainly something that has to be considered. That's probably the biggest change that I've seen in the course of my career.
What about jurors? I mean, do they understand railroad as much as they did like 40, 50 years? I'm assuming that there's less people using the rail than there were in the past.
When you're impaneling a jury and you start to talk to people, two things strike me in terms of the question that you just asked. And one is, it's amazing when you talk to people how many people have a friend or relative that has worked in the railroad industry.
Huh.
Happens all the time, and it's really interesting. You also find, particularly in some of the older folks, how much they love railroads.
Nostalgia.
It's a nostalgia. People have train collections. The railroads have had a very favorable impact on a lot of people, and it's not unusual at all when you're talking to a prospective juror to have them go off a little bit on their involvement with the railroad at some point during their life. So,
okay, nice. So, like, I know you mentioned that there is this issue with nuclear verdicts, but you've had some recent success trying cases in venues that a lot of people are not running on the defense side. Try cases in Philadelphia and other
yeah, I've been fortunate enough to try a number of cases in Philadelphia in the last, well, this many years ago, and a lot more in the last 10 years with some very good results. And, whether you're in Philadelphia or, interestingly enough, the railroads don't have any tracks, at least the ones we represent, in places like Bermuda. So I'm often in, Philadelphia.
we'd all be jumping into rail cases if they were in
all
Bermuda. That's how you got it right now.
But so yeah, we try cases in places like Philadelphia. I tried a case in Cincinnati earlier this year, and it all comes down to, no matter where you're trying the case, having some simple themes and having themes that jurors can relate to and understand. And of course, that's going to change from case to case,
Right.
based on your facts. But I try and keep it simple. I try a lot of toxic tort cases, cancer cases where the nomenclature can get pretty complicated, and you're talking about medical literature and things that may not be all that exciting, but you've got to distill it for them in a manner that they can appreciate and make them want to do what they think is right. And my job is to convince them, based on the evidence, that what is right is to return a verdict in favor of the railroad.
And thankfully that's happened quite a few times.
Well, thank you for saying that, and I've been pretty fortunate.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna move on to do some trivia questions. It's a part of the podcast that we have here. Just some general questions about the grill and.
Did you talk to my kids? Because they probably would have told you that I'm the worst at trivia.
Oh, really? Let's see how you do in this one. How much time is it?
We're at 20.
20? Okay, all right. So, first question,
Shoot.
and like, you can cut that part of the discussion. Okay. All right, first question, first trivia question, ready? Okay. Unlike workers' compensation, FELA cases require the worker to prove what?
Negligence.
Very employer negligence. Very good. I figured you get that one right. I would hope at least, you know. Okay. This is more directly related to the rail industry. This is the engine that provides power to pull a train.
Is this a trick question?
No, it's not.
Locomotive.
Yes. I mean, I don't know. I'm not like I wrote these questions myself, so
Have you ever ridden in a locomotive?
I don't think I have.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What's unique about it?
Just a perspective of moving along at 60 miles an hour on a piece of track.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Is it different than is that the actual car, the locomotive, or the locomotive's engine, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you can ride in the locomotive car?
Yeah, I wasn't working the controls, I was with a qualified.
Right, got it, so I mean, like, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and this, is that the front car?
Yeah.
Okay, oh, that's nice, so you can kind of see everything,
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Alright, cool. Alright, this is an enclosed car with sliding doors that is used for general freight that provides protection from the weather.
Is this another?
That's your question. That's your question.
A boxcar.
Boxcar, you know you're relevant,
You're making me sort of double clutch on these because
Right.
the answer comes quickly to my head.
Right.
Am I missing something here?
Alright, let's see how you do this one. During the 1981 NCAA men's basketball season, this 6'2" forward earned all PAC, that's President Athletic Conference honors, during his senior season. This is multiple choice, by the way.
Okay.
When he averaged 17.4 points, 4.7 rebounds, and shot 81% from the free throw line. Now the options are Isaiah Thomas, Ralph Sampson, Danny Ainge, or the current chief financial officer for the Burns White law firm, Dave Damico.
Well, I have to confess that's yours truly, and I didn't know that those statistics were still publicly available.
You're in the, what school did you go to again?
Washington and Jefferson.
Okay, you're in the Hall of Fame, right?
I am.
Okay, and when you're done, and then, also just to add to that, based on my crack research team, we learned that you not only made the all PAC athletic conference during your senior year, but also during, I think, your sophomore and junior years as well, right?
That is correct.
Now I know why you have the basketball court out there, and like, so let me ask you now, okay, take 10 free throws, how many would you make?
How much warm up do I get?
No warm up.
No warm up?
Yeah,
Oh,
this might be a separate podcast episode.
I could do
Just
seven.
let
I
us-
can make 7 without warming up.
That's pretty impressive, that's pretty impressive.
My best was when I was in college, just practicing in the gym, 94 out of 100.
94 out of 100. Wow, that's something to be proud of. But how does that not make it on the Burns White website? You gotta add that to your bio, you know, like, okay. All right, back to the real questions.
Yes, sir.
A car formerly used at the end of trains for crew.
Caboose.
Caboose, you're crushing these questions. Really. What is the statute of limitations for filing an FPLA claim?
So it's 3 years. But what makes it interesting sometimes is, let's say a person develops, we'll say some type of cancer.
Sure, yeah.
And they may think that it's a result of some sort of chemical exposure at work. But they don't know that. They don't know the cause of their cancer. So in our cases, there's something called the discovery rule.
Sure.
So the statute of limitations is 3 years from when a person knows or reasonably should know of their injury and its cause.
I know New Jersey, I'm a New Jersey guy, so
Yeah.
in New Jersey, that you have an evidentiary hearing sometimes. Do you guys have to deal with that at all? Like, as far as whether or not it was reasonable for the person to know about the cancer diagnosis?
Yeah, it's a question of law. It's supposed to be for the judge to decide. On occasion, we have hearings, but usually it's submitted on briefing.
Okay.
It's not unheard of to have a hearing.
Yeah, it's probably, I would imagine the type of cases that you have, especially if you're talking about chemical spills and things of that nature, person might not learn for decades.
Sure.
That, or if it's an employee who's retired now, who's exposed to something like asbestos, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And not until way later. And
Exactly, and a lot of them say, I didn't really think of a possible connection until I saw a commercial on TV.
okay.
Plaintiff's attorneys advertising about, if you've been injured, blah, 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 so.
All right, next question. This group of Burns White attorneys won the coveted fantasy football championship in the years 2016 and 2018.
Was that you or me?
Yes, that was me.
That was you.
Yeah, I bring it up. I had to bring it up, look, we had a very good fantasy football league running for a while.
That was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun.
And I love the history
Who's
behind it.
interviewing who?
No, but like, I just love the story about how you guys started that league, though. And if you can kind of tell the viewers, like back in the day when you guys are using newspaper clippings to, look at the scores and.
Yeah, I honestly don't remember its inception other than, once again, Mike Burns was the impetus behind our fantasy football league. And as the offices grew, probably a nice place to point out that from our original 5, we've grown to, 14 offices now in 7 states. That's something else I'm very proud of. But when we got Cherry Hill on board, the fantasy football league expanded, and it's a great way to stay connected.
It is. It's
with people
a
in
lot
the
of
other
fun.
offices.
No, I think what I remember about it is that I know, like, in talking to you and a couple other people who were in the league for a long time, so you guys are doing hand scoring once upon a time. Like, so it was even before like the websites and things like that.
Oh yeah, it was all done by hand.
Yeah, so you just grab the newspapers. The kids don't understand that. You just grab the newspapers to find the scores on Sundays and see how the Oakland Raiders did and what their yardage was.
Exactly.
It's a different time.
Exactly.
But
Yeah.
it's a good way to connect.
We didn't have computers when I started practicing law. In fact, I remember staring in bewilderment at the first fax machine I ever saw and thinking, how in the world does that information go from one place to another?
And now look at us now, with now AI is a new thing, I guess, right? And it's just technology keeps growing, but you know what? We keep growing with it, right?
Changing all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Another real question. What is the term for the movement of equipment or crew without carrying cargo or passengers?
Maintenance of way. Did I miss one?
Deadhead. Is that?
Oh, it's for crew.
Yeah.
Yeah. I shouldn't have answered so.
Well, you know what? 94 out of 100 free throws. You get one question wrong. I think that's okay.
I didn't listen carefully enough to your
Okay.
question.
All right. That's all right. It's a lesson for everybody. That's what we do with this podcast. It's a teaching podcast. All right. This member of our Burns White team serves as chairman of the governance committee for Cancer Bridges, a nonprofit dedicated to providing a warm and welcoming environment for those touched by cancer.
Would that be Pat Horvath?
That would be Pat Horvath.
Yeah, Pat's one of, as I mentioned, 27 lawyers on our team. I work very closely with Pat. he and I have tried some cases together, and we have another case in Philadelphia in August that I think there's a good chance we're going to try. But one of Pat's best attributes, besides the fact that he's a good lawyer, and again, I think this spans across most, if not all, the folks on our team, is Pat has a great personality. He's fun to talk to. He's engaging. He cares about people, and it comes across when you meet him. And I think it comes across in the courtroom too. So he's pretty gifted in that regard.
I think it's like you said. It's if you look around our firm, there's a lot of Pat Corvettes around, right? People who care about the community and also pretty good lawyers.
Absolutely.
Last question, and I think you touched on this earlier. This law firm's railroad practice group received a national first-tier ranking for the 15th straight year by Best Lawyers magazine.
I believe that would be Burns White.
I would hope so.
Yeah.
I mean, we're a lot of things on this podcast, but humble not so much.
I actually learned something here. I didn't realize it was 15 years straight.
Oh,
That's
okay.
pretty impressive.
Okay, well, we have an impressive group.
Slightly humbled at the moment, but nonetheless, that is it's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, well, I mean, I've been with the firm for it's my 12th or 13th year now, and I've had nothing to do with that because that's not my practice area. But we have a pretty strong medical malpractice group.
Yeah, I think you're doing just fine.
Yeah, but I'll take some credit for it if you want. With the group success, I guess, right?
You're more than welcome.
All right, so let's end with this. Let's look towards the future. Let's assume for a second, like we're looking back in a time machine, from 100 years, but people 100 years later looking back on the Burns White law firm. What would you want the firm to be known as in the future?
One of the best darn law firms around, with some of the nicest people you'd ever want to meet. And I think those 2 points encompass everything from A to Z in terms of legal services and relationships, both of which are paramount and important in our business. And I hope Burns White has always been that way.
Well, in the past 38 years, you've laid a great foundation to make that happen.
Well, thanks, Ahsan, and it's people like you that have helped make it a successful place to work.
All right, well, that's it. Thank you for your time.
My pleasure.
Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
The information contained in this podcast is considered an outline intended to be supplemented by an attorney. The information is not legal advice and should not be considered as such. Thank you for joining us. If you have any questions or comments regarding this episode, feel free to email us at podcast@burnswhite.com.